So now all about my yen. There we go. There we go. Oh, fuck no. Fuck. I'm supposed to fix the edits and shit. Can I edit it right here? Alright, edit. Hey, now, say not all about my yen. Turn. Turn base RPGs. Turn based games. Turn based games. Are they good or bad? I'm interested. I'm over here naming the stream on stream. This is actually crazy. Turn-based games, are they good or are they bad? Oh, what the fuck did I? Oh, is it this one? Yeah. I'm trying to see what's up with it. What's up with the connection right now? I'm tripping, huh? I'm tripping, eh?
The RPG genre has helped mold the video game industry to what it is today. In modern day gaming, the majority of the best reviewed games borrow many elements.
Sure. Say no. Alright. Quality with 720. I could go to that. Let me see right there. Some ads. I think I'm gonna close this out. Hopefully I can do that. Alright. That going down. My 14 CPU. What's going on?
The RPG genre has helped mold the video game industry to what it is today. In modern day gaming, the majority of the best games borrow many elements from old and new RPG systems. Just stop and think about it. How many games have you played where they have skill trees, magical systems, and I'll even go far and say character customization? All of these concepts have some type of influence from the RPG genre. Action RPGs are by far one of the most popular and most beloved subgenre of the RPGs to date. There's just something about a nice, challenging action RPG that puts your senses to the test and forces you to block at certain times, hit enemies at the right opening, and maybe even use some of the right items to boost your chances of winning. However, there's another subgenre that doesn't really seem to get that much of praise: the turn-based RPG. And I'll just get straight to the point. I think turn-based RPGs suck.
Damn.
That's what I would have said a while ago. Heck, I would have even said that a couple weeks ago.
Was this a turn-based?
Just like many gamers
Dragon Ball
out there,
Z game?
the genre just felt outdated.
Was it?
And with so many action-based RPGs resonating with me, I just always felt like the turn-based genre was just a huge step backward. Now, as you could probably tell from what I said earlier, I don't have this mindset anymore, but I completely understand why people feel like this. I think the many reasons why gamers don't like this genre stems from the slow, tedious battles that require moments of planning, strategizing, and just complete. Some of these games have simple dungeon monsters that take just as much planning as the actual bosses. But it's really strange to see a sudden shift in opinion because there was a time where most of these games were all people crave.
Yeah, Pokemon. Yep. I never played any of these games.
Pokemon by far is one of the most popular turn-based RPGs out there. It was mine and many other gamers' introduction to the RPG genre. With Pokemon Emerald being my first introduction to the series, it was just something about these games that was just a breath of fresh air. Being introduced to different types of matchups, abilities, and Pokemon combinations really refreshing when I was a kid. I find it really insane that if you were to show me any Pokemon from the first 4 games, I could tell you its name, its type, its evolution, and heck, maybe even its abilities. That's just how invested I was into the game. It was to a point where I held it into such a high standard. If I was to play any turn-based RPG, it had to be similar to Pokemon, or it just wasn't worth my time. And I think this is where my distaste of the genre really started. I also developed a really weird habit where I could not play an RPG unless it was on a handheld device. And even then, I strictly only played Pokemon. I always thought that as a console...
I mean, yeah, that kind of makes sense to say that, like, you could only play turn-based games if they're on handhelds. Obviously, mainly because of Pokemon, but, like, yeah, I think one time I bought a Pokemon game for GameCube, and I wasn't really sure, like, what it was. I was just like, here's this Pokemon game, it's at a decent price, it's on sale and shit or whatever, and then I took it home, and I played it on the TV, and I'm like, why are we taking turns? Like, what's going on here? I'm trying to, like, figure this out. I'm like, I didn't know that they made games like this for a console. Like, I'm playing this on a TV, and it just feels stupid. You feel me? But, like, let's see what else you got.
Console gamer, the game I played needed to have my hand focus. I could never fathom the idea that I could just pick up a skill on my character, and it'll just do it for me. For decades, I never touched a turn-based RPG other than Pokemon, and maybe some computer games if you want to count those too. But one series that I never thought I'd ever play changed my mind.
Final Fantasy?
The Final Fantasy series is an interesting one. I should also point out that I love the Kingdom Hearts series, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. And when I saw Square Enix had another franchise, I was so excited to check it out. I remember downloading the Final Fantasy 13 demo, finding out it was turn-based. Well, it wasn't all turn-based. Majority of the battle system was automated, so you just had to call spells and attacks for your characters, but you get the point. It wasn't until 2016 when I got my hands on a copy of Final Fantasy 15. Yup, Final Fantasy 15 was my first real introduction to the Final Fantasy series. And despite how much people love to feel about how much it's a departure from the series and how easy, brain-dead the combat is, it's still one of my favorite Final Fantasy games. After playing the game, I was really ready to give the Final Fantasy series another go, but I was really intimidated by the turn-based aspect. But that all changed once I picked up this game. Final Fantasy X has changed my whole perspective of the genre. I came into it with the lowest of expectations. When it came in the mail, I literally questioned the reason why I bought it. But when I finally booted up on my console, I was just blown away. Now, I have a review of the game coming out soon, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but the combat system is just so refreshing. Whenever I played Pokemon, I never bothered with the stat-changing skills. I typically just used moves that were super effective against my opponent. But in Final Fantasy X, moves like Haste, Shell, Protect that increase your attack and defense is a must for the majority of the battles. Now, enemies do have magical weaknesses, but sometimes they have abilities that can help counter these weaknesses. For example, I fought an enemy that was weak to fire, but he had a fireproof ability, which negated all fire attacks. You also have 7 party members, with each of them having specifics in battle. Wakka can be used to hit flying enemies because of his high accuracy stat. You can also use Auron to deal heavy damage and break enemies' defenses. You can also use Yuna to help heal your team and cast buffs to help you win the battle. There's so much variety in these fights. Even the AI enemies have a unique pattern that makes gameplay interesting. Some bosses will actually react to the skills you use on them. For example, if you use slow on the enemy, they might counter with haste, which makes them faster. If you apply a static effect on the enemy, he might counter with Esuna, which cures them. There was so much more logical decisions that the AI makes to make the battles way more interesting. I think that the turn-based RPG benefits heavily from their combat system and gameplay when it comes to storytelling. I find it odd how well games like Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, and Persona can tell such engaging stories with really simplistic combat. But then I realized it. Because of how simplistic the combat system is, there's more of a focus on the story. You can put a lot of focus on the story in these games without sacrificing the quality of the game. However, many action-based RPGs tend to tell their story during battles or through the combat. So a lot of the times, developers value the gameplay more than the story. It really comes to mind how some RPGs, while you fight a boss, a story is still taking place. A conversation is happening between you and the villain. So sometimes it's really hard to pay attention to the story at the same time as fighting the boss. I honestly think that a game that can tell an engaging story.
That's true. That's true. There are certain times, certain fights, certain like real crescendoing moments of plots in certain games that I play where it's like we're fighting and they're having a conversation about some shit. And it's just like, damn, like I really wish that I could soak in everything that they're telling each other right now. But I can understand why it's happening while they're fighting. So it's like, both sides. Like, I understand both sides of it. But I do hate when I miss parts of the conversation because I'm trying to focus on, like, damn, I need to block. I need to block. I need to pull this out. I need to, you feel me? I hate missing stuff.
And have a complex but rewarding combat system tend to be the most satisfying. And turn-based RPGs really hit that sweet spot. By now, you should know that my opinion of the turn-based genre has drastically changed. After Final Fantasy, I see why so much people enjoy it, and I almost feel bad for people who have the same mindset I used to have. If you have your doubts about the genre, I would highly recommend you pick up some of the titles I mentioned, with Final Fantasy X being one I would highly recommend. But if you just want to get your feet wet, I would also recommend the recent Final Fantasy VII Remake. It has a mixture of action and turn-based elements. During combat, you can slow down the battle and execute commands for you and your teammates. It also gives you the ability to switch between different characters mid-fight and use them for different situations. And if you want to invest your time into a story-driven game, I would highly recommend Persona 5 Royal Edition. I recently just bought the game, and it just came in a couple hours ago, and I'm looking forward to playing it. I heard so many good things about it. Do you enjoy turn-based RPGs, or were you one of those people that were swayed away just from its gameplay? I'd love to know what you guys have to say, so put it down in the comment section down below. I would love to have a conversation. Anyway, let's go do it for the video, guys. If you enjoyed the video,
I feel like if I'm gonna get into one, it'd have to be like Pokemon, bro. Like, if I'm gonna get into one right now, just to like get used to the genre, how shit works and shit like that, like it gotta be like one of the real base level Pokemon games. The only thing is that I only have a PS5, so that's the only thing holding me back from getting it. But actually, let's look on Steam. Maybe like a real, like 2-bit. You feel me? Like that old shit. Maybe they have it. I can like download and play it on the computer. Maybe. Do they not have it? That would be crazy. They only got Power World for $22.49. It's that Nintendo licensing, I'm guessing. You need an account? I mean, my girl has a Switch. They're like a super old, dusty Pokemon that I could pick up, bro. I'm not trying to get none of the new ones that were like not really good, but for some reason still cost $50-something. Let's Go Pikachu. Sold out. I would say free demo for $60. You know what's funny? My girl actually has that game, I believe. I might just hop on it. It's turn-based. Kind of want to watch another video. Who's this? Turn-based combat outdated. Let's look at some of the comments. I think most people generally enjoy action-oriented games more than turn-based ones because they offer more of an instant adrenaline rush versus delayed gratification Or the latter, I'm guessing you meant to say. Out of the most popular games today, I can only think of a handful of franchises with turn-based gameplay such as Pokemon, Hearthstone, and Civilization. I only know Pokemon from that list. Turn-based combat is just inherently less enjoyable for me. Yeah, facts. It's subjective. I love turn-based RPGs more than action RPGs. Respect to you. Respect to you. Because, I mean, like, I can understand if, like I said, if you're coming from that Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Red, you feel me, background of, like, that was your first and probably only console or only way of playing video games at the time, like, you may have just thought that, like, that's what games are. You feel me? You're just playing Pokemon, Pokemon, Pokemon. Like, that's probably what your idea of the game is. So, even if you do graduate to eventually get a console and play an action RPG or something like that, it's like you still have that at your core of like your favorite and your original memories of what gaming is at the end of the day. So, something random just popped in my head. The Attack on Titan video game essay. Somebody make something about this? Attack on Titan 2 before you buy. They made 2 of them? What? This is so
We're
random.
Back with another episode of Before You Buy. That show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions on the latest games releasing. And today we're talking about Attack on Titan 2. This is a weird game. No, not because of the source material or anything. It's the game's existence. It's mostly a retread of last year's Attack on Titan game. Thankfully, though, I really enjoyed that game. This might be a good starting point for new folks because you get the whole story and a bit more refined gameplay and more features and on more platforms this time, including Nintendo Switch, which is nice. This time, instead of just playing you through the events of the show or manga as the characters that inhabit it, the perspective is shifted to your own created character. This kind of mute character you create integrates with the main group of friends that are the protagonists of the series and the story.
Oh, I don't like that. I generally just do not like that. Like, I think they're doing it in Persona 2, but like, Persona's goated. I don't like, bro. To even play a game as cool as like Hogwarts Legacy, where they're like giving you different voices. You could choose your voice, like script it. Do something, please, bro. I hate when I create a player and everybody's just talking to me and doing this and doing that, and like my character has no voice. It just feels lazy. It just feels like, hey, listen, we want to have this player create a player and be their own person in this story, but we don't feel like going through, you know, getting a voice actor to voice out different things. Like, come on, bro. Just put in the extra work, please.
The story is told somewhat through your own eyes this time around. Actually, kind of literally. You really cool cutscenes that are from a first-person perspective of your character that give you kind of an alternate viewing angle of events that happened on the show. And full value for some diehard fans. But otherwise, the game manages to reuse a lot of cutscenes and scenarios from the first game, which can feel kind of cheap, I guess. It even makes it feel a bit more disjointed than it should at times, and it's all more apparent if you played a ton of last year's game. It still manages to tell the story fairly well throughout, so if this is your first Attack on Titan game or experience at all, this is a good one to jump into. Especially because the core gameplay is really, really fun. They nailed it last time around. Here they just added a few new expansions. The game throws you in these large scenario maps, and then that's where the fun really begins. You can fly around through the air with your grappling hook, Spider-Man style, like with the omnidirectional mobile gear, and jump and flip around and wall run, and it just really nails the feel of the anime.
I feel like playing this on my 75
I remember when I first saw the show, and I was like, wow, holy shit, this looks so cool. I'd love to play this in a video game. They've nailed it with this series. The sense of speed and momentum is great, and just the look of it all as the environments fly past you never really gets old. The game just does a great job of looking like the animations, especially with the locomotion, because you can also ride a warhorse into battle and catapult yourself off of it, and that is just as cool as it sounds. But combat is the real name of the game here, and there's a lot more to it than you'd expect. You're taking down these giant, goofy-looking titans most of the time, and it's all about positioning and targeting, grappling onto the titan properly, targeting the right body part, and boosting and using your momentum to fly forward and then with very perfect timing, slice at their weak spots. It's easy at first, but it gets increasingly more difficult as newer enemy types are introduced, and in the sequel here, all Titans have a bit more of an attack range.
You know what this feels like? This feels like a game where if for whatever reason 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, they were to just randomly decide, like, yo, we're going to make an Attack on Titan game. Like, we're going to use PS7 engine, Unreal Engine 9 or whatever it is at that time. We're just going to get right, really get down to the nitty gritty and make a real Attack on Titan game that everybody would love. They're going to look back at this game and be like, wow, y'all wasn't here. Y'all wasn't around for this, that. This game was a classic. Y'all, I know y'all didn't play the first one. And it's like, that's what it's going to be about this game. And yet, I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about this game ever. Like, at all. No recommendations of it. Nothing. But here it is, looking good. Nobody plays it.
It seems, which to me is a nice added challenge. And in this game, man, once you get a good combo going and you're just flying from Titan to Titan, killing them off, you feel like a total badass, like Commander Levi or something. Even after the second game here, playing through this, I'm still just amazed at how fun it is and how much can go into it. Slicing off certain limbs of a Titan will net you material to craft better weapons and equipment, and that's just a really good, intelligent loop and a good way to incorporate more passive crafting stuff like that into the actual combat itself. And in the second game here, the items you can get at the shops are refreshed, even though it all feels a little bit familiar. Now, out in the field, you can build small bases now that either work as tower defense units or just resupply stations for your potions, fresh blades, and gas refills. Along with that, there's also more of an emphasis now on using your teammates' attacks. They just feel a tad more useful now. Not only that, they also added the ability to kind of use a scope and then have a long-range rushing sneak attack move. If you remember, I brought up saying that they added refinements. This sneak attack thing is really awesome. It totally works. And it just gives combat a little bit extra depth. There's also more opportunities for side diversions within the battlefield as well as outside the battlefield. Because once again, you're tasked with walking around the town space and buying new weapons and talking to folks, which in the previous title was my least favorite aspects. But this time around, it does make a little bit more sense thanks to just having more things to manage, like the friendship meter, where you level up relationships with all the other characters by talking to them and doing side stuff and helping them in the field. That's a new addition that seems like it's kind of half-assed and you might want to blow it off, but it actually ties into unlocking new skills for your character. Other than that, there's a lot more dialogue to go through this time around. And while it's fine, I love good dialogue, after a while it does start to feel like a meaningless chore, though. But the big lame thing is that if you were looking for a direct sequel to the first game, you're not really getting it here. The game is at least a 75% retread of the first game. So a lot of the game is a retread, and since the previous game for me was great but started dwindle on getting a little repetitive, the same repetition shows its head here. There is more to do, like I said, but the main battlefield flow and action, just the core, is the same. And you may grow tired of it after a while, so I just think that's worth pointing out. But there is also online multiplayer with full campaign co-op, and then there's Annihilation mode that is like 4v4 for whoever kills the most Titan wins. And then there's also 4-player scout missions to round things out pretty nicely. And kind of coming back around, while you can create a character,
4-player scout missions,
he or she doesn't add much to the conversation. And there's not much else in terms of progression for upgrading their look afterwards. I do actually kind of miss getting to shift around playing as Eren, Mikasa, or Levi, or whoever throughout the story, but thankfully there is a non-story mode that lets you play through arcade scenarios as your favorite characters again, thankfully. Overall, this is a weird package. It's the same, but more and better. There's just enough new stuff to warrant die-hard fans to check it out, but not much else. And like I said earlier, though, it's also a good jumping on point for newcomers because it tells you the whole story. But if you're kind of in the middle, I don't know, it's fine. But that's how Before You Buy works, guys. I give you some pros and cons.
Fill that. See if anything came down the pipes. Nothing. Let's look at what we got on Twitter. Hurry Up Tomorrow. Oh yeah, the Weekend album came out. We react to the Weeknd album? No, I'm not gonna do that. I just want to take a quick second to comment on some shit like this, man. Why do people do this? Like, I know why people do this. They do it for engagement. My question is, why do people fall for this? Is the question. Why does this have 15,000 likes? And there's gonna be hella people that are in the comments like, yeah, you know, this shit don't got no games, this is that. While I agree PlayStation has been tripping with the games and the releases and shit, but like, why are you commenting on a dude that posted January 28th that he says, hey, let's hope this is worth it, and then 29th the next day saying, like, that's not enough time to play The Last of Us. There's not enough time to play God of War. Like, what are we doing, bro? Unless he's talking about... Is that a Pro? Can't use a PS5 controller and input delays. Oh, brother. Simu Liu. That's how you say it? So few film projects make it from pitch phase to green light. Pitching execs who don't understand the game has been tired. You said this 3 hours ago. Pitching execs who don't understand the game has been tiring. Everyone's overwhelming love of Sleeping Dogs here has really given us life. First a movie, then a sequel game for everyone. That's always been the dream. A movie, then the sequel game. Shout out Sleeping Dogs. I didn't play Sleeping Dogs. Should I tap in? What's up with Snake Eater? That's what I wanted to hear about real quick. What's up with Snake Eater, bro? Hands-on preview. Did I watch this shit? I don't think I watched this. This might be my last video. I gotta start getting ready for work.
Your code name for this mission will be Naked Snake. I'll be referring to you as Snake from now on.
Few games truly deserve the remake treatment as much as Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Arguably the best stealth action game of its generation, back in 2004 it pushed the PlayStation to its very limits, so much so that the hardware occasionally weighed down its ambitions. 20 years later, a complete remake from Konami using the power of modern consoles has the potential to unlock the full, uncompromised vision of the game's original creators. Instead, this new Kojima-less Metal Gear Solid Delta seems more like a very shiny HD remaster than the elegant remake it could have been. It's an admittedly beautiful nostalgia trip, but almost faithful to a fault.
Man, it sounds like they hating heavy. God damn.
In a recent hands-on demonstration, I was able to play through Metal Gear Solid Delta's Virtuous Mission, a complete recreation of Snake Eater's prologue built in Unreal Engine 5. It looks every bit as fantastic as you'd hope, particularly when it comes to character models. Faces and clothing are a real highlight. The jungle is the true star of the show though, with modern lighting techniques helping showcase the graphical overhaul to every blade of grass, every pool of mud, and every writhing python. If you're a Metal Gear veteran, you'll know that the roughly 90-minute duration of the Virtuous Mission is dominated by cutscenes and codec calls. It's not the ideal section to test drive any changes Konami has made, visuals aside, particularly since Delta uses the same dialogue audio as the original Snake Eater, and thus all cinematics are frame for frame and line for line identical.
Really? No changes?
Altitude 30,000 feet. Approaching Soviet airspace.
Listen up, Jack. Your mission is to infiltrate Selino Yask in the Soviet mountains, ensure the safety of Sokolov, and bring him back to the West.
but if this slice is anything to go by, any gameplay changes are minimal. Delta appears to be a painstaking recreation of Metal Gear Solid 3, down to the millimetre. Trees stand exactly where they originally stood, the same enemies patrol the same routes, and frustratingly frequent load screens once again divide the jungle into small, self-contained maps. This structure, perfectly preserved from the 2004 original, makes Metal Gear Solid Delta feel so much older than its new high-definition visuals. The jungle is small and claustrophobic.
That's interesting. That's an interesting question, I would say, about remakes just in general. Are you penalizing a remake for remaking 100% of the game and not taking any liberties anywhere? It's kind of like the conversation around The Last of Us. Like, people love the game so much that anytime they would want to like differentiate between the show and the game and maybe like take liberties and do something here, like people are like, no, I don't want that. I want this, that, exactly how that is in the game. And then it's like, okay, but what they did on their own, what they decided to add to it was fire. Like, for instance, the opening scene of The Last of Us, we never got that in the game. The whole, like, they're on the talk show talking about how the virus is spreading and taking over and whatnot. Like, that, I feel like, added a sense of menace. Like, just a sense of just an ominous, vibe to the show of, like, what's going to happen, And I felt like that worked. So it's interesting to see here that, like, in the remake for this Metal Gear game, everything's the same. Now I feel like taking it as far as like having the enemies like patrolling the same routes and stuff like that, that feels a little crazy. That's like, come on, bro. Like, if we're gonna remake a game with all these potential new mechanics and stuff like that, like why are they still doing walking in the exact same areas? Like, change it up a little bit, That kind of just, it does give you the vibe of, like, my older brother, passed his test, and he's 2 years before me, but he saved his answers, or he saved his paper, and he gave me his paper, and I wrote it word for word. Like, that's kind of what it feels like if they're going to do it that way. I'm not too mad at them for just simply doing their job or simply doing what they promised, as in a remake. But yeah, once you start getting to just copy and print, copy and paste, that's
claustrophobic. Not because of its imposing canopy, but because of its limited play spaces. The loading screens act as hard barriers, meaning what happens in one zone doesn't impact another. Alerted guards can't chase you into a different map, for instance. This lack of continuity between each segment limits your creativity. There's seemingly no way to extractions that fool enemies into investigating beyond a loading screen boundary, or line up a perfect shot across the stitching between zones. All of this, of course, was not just forgivable back in 2004, but expected. The PS2 simply couldn't render an entire seamless play space this detail. But in 2024, the freedom of Metal Gear Solid 5's sprawling maps, which would be perfectly at home retrofitted into Snake Eater's Soviet wilderness, is sorely missing here.
That looks good.
I'm reminded of Capcom's Resident Evil 2 remake, which eliminated the original game's iconic door-opening loading screens in favour of a more immersive, completely seamless police station. Without a similar approach, I worry that the overall play experience of MGS Delta won't be significantly different enough from the Snake Eater HD remaster as part of last year's Master Claim Volume 1, a game with a much lower price point and packaged with two other truly excellent games. After playing the demo, I had the chance to talk with Delta's producer, Noriaki Okamura, and I asked why the team didn't opt to bring MGS3's map design up to date. We did debate this internally, he told me. Maybe we should reskin the game into the open world type map. But thinking about this, we would definitely have to basically remake the game from scratch, and by doing so it could alter other things about the game, and we decided that that's not the direction we wanted to take.
We would definitely have to basically remake the game from scratch, and doing so it could alter other things about the game. Okay. I'm not gonna lie to you. All this is saying to me is that we're lazy as fuck. That's all it's saying to me. Saying we could alter other things about the game, so what? So what? You're saying that you could damage other things about the game, or it would affect other things? Okay, then get somebody in there to go work on that after they get affected. That's kind of all it's saying. All it's saying to me is like, we could have revamped it, stripped it down to its base level and then built it up from there. But we would have had to have pulled up some carpet over here that we didn't want to have to do. And we would have had to change some tile over here that we like, bro, go get somebody to pull the carpet and change the tile. Take as long as you want, as you need, of course. It's not like we're rushing you to get it out. Take as long as you need and then get it out. But you're basically saying like you're trying to make a bed with someone still sleeping in it. It's basically, you're trying to just change the sheets on the bed with someone still in it. You don't want to wake them up. It's not going to look good. It's not going to look pressed. It's not going to look straight, flat. It's just going to be a crumpled up sheet over somebody sleeping. You feel me? Like, what was the point if we're not going to do it to the best of our ability is my question. Alright.
While the play space of the Virtuous mission is exactly what you remember, Konami has made some smart changes that incontestably make Delta more comfortable to play than its parent. The most important is a modernised control scheme that works in tandem with the over-the-shoulder aiming, a feature pulled from the 3DS version of Metal Gear Solid 3. This setup is practically revolutionary. The original Snake Eater used inputs that had their roots in the comparatively basic Metal Gear Solid 1, but the increasingly complex and ambitious battles demanded a level of fine control that the...
There's something... what?
that the scheme simply couldn't keep up with. Thankfully, the old fiddly aim mechanics are now gone, with contemporary trigger-based gun controls that allow for easy, precise headshots. There's nothing in the Virtuous mission that really challenged my marksmanship, but I'm really looking forward to battling the Fury, a boss whose speed and attack patterns were an uncomfortable fit for the original game's clunky controls.
I am the Fury. Flames of my rage will incinerate you.
Other welcome enhancements are a quick dial system for your codec, allowing you to access vital functions like saving the game by tapping down on the D-pad, while the up button opens a quick select for your camouflage. The two remaining D-pad buttons cycle equipment, which is a minor but solid improvement over the original scheme. More essential is the Snake can now crouch walk, another feature first included in the 3D version, which practically feels like a necessity in a stealth game. Combined with the refreshed aiming system and modern 3D camera, Snake Eater now plays much more intuitively. However, I will counter that by saying it still does feel like a game from a prior generation. Snake...
I have concluded a very fragile truce with Sigismund, and if anyone should disrupt my plans with...
Snake unfortunately does not move with the fluidity of his MGS5 counterpart. Again, it feels like Konami has missed a clear opportunity to bring modern enhancements to MGS Delta. Provided the entire game follows suit with this demo, I think your feelings on Delta are going to depend on just how faithful you want this remake to be. If you're a purist, then you're in luck. The new MGS team at Konami sees the original Snake Eater as something of a text, but it means Delta's creative vision is held prisoner by the early 2000s. Even the cutscenes feature the same fade to black loading between scenes as the original. Surely something cinephile Kojima would have exercised if only he'd had access to SSDs back in the day. Beyond the updated graphics and controls, nothing surprising, refreshing, or I say exciting about...
I feel like this is not me. I feel like this dude's video is tripping. But, yep. Hey, I just wanted to check in on a couple of video game things in the morning. I'm still on the hunt for a new video game to play. Maybe soon I will, come to the decision and we'll get to streaming it. We will get to streaming it, but I am going to be, getting into a game soon at some point. But see you for now.